Thank you for tuning into Beast Watch News News Brief at the most current and comprehensive Bible prophecy website on the internet, beastwatchnews.com. All Bible prophecy news, all the time. Stay tuned for news. The scripture for today is Ezekiel 13:3. Thus says the Lord God, Woe to the foolish prophets that follow their own spirit and have seen nothing. In Israel, the UN believes that war is about to break out between Syria and Israel. Netanyahu, addressing a weekly cabinet meeting, said Israel would not intervene in the Syrian conflict as long as fire is not being directed at us. But he said international forces in the buffer zone between Israel and Syria could no longer be relied upon to keep the peace, suggesting that Israeli forces could be forced to intervene for self-defense purposes. But Assad told Jordanian opposition politicians on Sunday that opening a front on the Golan against Israel was a serious matter and would not consist of firing just a few improvised rockets from time to time. According to a quote in the Hezbollah mouthpiece, the Lebanese Al-Akbar, Assad said, "The resistance will be well planned and designed to damage the enemy." The Syrian ruler was confirming that serious joint preparations were afoot by Syria, Iran, and Hezbollah to attack Israel from the Golan. Meanwhile, Jordan is hosting a military exercise between that country and the U.S. with jets and missiles in drills. Deputy Defense Minister Danny Danon stuck to his guns on Sunday and defended his statements that he made last week to the Times of Israel, in which he claimed that most of those in the coalition are opposed to a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Abbas has rejected Netanyahu's offer to free 50 pre-Oslo prisoners for the new talks. This has prompted Kerry to delay his Middle East trip until next week to give Abbas more time. The Palestinians are laying the groundwork for the infrastructure of their future state. 6 cities, 2 airports, a high-tech complex, a university, and a system of highways to connect all of the above are included in the new Palestinian construction plan aimed at creating a territorial continuity in the West Bank. Dozens of sites in the West Bank are part of the new trend of construction as the authorities refuse to wait for the revival of peace talks and are now laying down the foundations and infrastructure for that independent state. Iran is increasing its attacks on Israeli computers. In the past few months, they have identified a significant increase in the scope of cyber attacks on Israel by Iran. These attacks are carried out directly by Iran and through its proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah, but Israel says we only hear about a few of them because they thwart most of them. Under War and Peace, Syrian rebel forces attacked 2 Iraqi military positions at the southern tip of their common border on Sunday. They failed to beat the Iraqi troops back, although a number of Iraqi officers and soldiers were killed. Shooting incidents flared during the day near the Alawid Syrian-Iraqi crossing, but the Iraqi forces held fast. This was their first engagement with the Syrian rebels in the 28-month Syrian civil war, but it will unlikely be the last. Lebanese troops blocked streets in Beirut with tanks and barbed wire for several hours on Sunday after the killing of a protester outside the Iranian embassy raised factional tensions already inflamed by the Syria war, and Saudi Arabia has warned its citizens to leave Lebanon. The main container of the Arak heavy water reactor, dubbed IR-40, was installed today in the presence of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, according to the Fars news agency. The reactor is projected to start operation next year. A truce village has been set up for the North Koreans and South Koreans to have cabinet-level talks. North Korea and South Korea inched closer to resettling their strained relations on Sunday, as delegations met face-to-face to lay the foundation for the first cabinet-level talks in 6 years. The meeting at the truce village of Panmunjom in the Korean demilitarized zone, so called because the armistice that brought the 1950-53 Korean War to a close was signed there, signaled that the two countries may be prepared to move beyond months of mutual mistrust. Insurgents on Monday attacked the military site of Kabul's international airport, which houses a NATO headquarters. There were explosions and gunfire. In economic news, Nationwide, seniors are living off of a median household income of $35,000, which is roughly 57% of the median income of their younger counterparts ages 45 to 64. This is according to an analysis of 2011 U.S. Census Bureau data by Interest.com. But the report says that seniors in 48 states face serious income shortages. This news comes amid reports that there is now a record 23,116,441 households in the U.S. food stamp program. Under White House news, Edward Snowden has come forward as the source of the NSA leaks. He's a 29-year-old man who says he is a former undercover CIA employee and that he was the principal source of recent disclosures about top-secret National Security Agency programs. This exposed himself to possible prosecution in an acknowledgement that had little, if any, precedent in the long history of U.S. intelligence leaks. Edwards said he disclosed secret documents in response to what he described as the systematic surveillance of innocent citizens. He said that he had mistakenly believed in Obama's promises of transparency. But Snowden continued, saying that this is just the tip of the iceberg. In response to this scandal, the Obama administration has taken a first step toward opening a criminal investigation into the purported leaking of classified documents related to the federal government tracking Americans' phone calls and emails, according to a source familiar with the high-level discussions. The source said that James Clapper, the director of U.S. National Intelligence, had filed a criminal report with the Justice Department and the FBI, which begins the process. And what can people do to protect their privacy from massive data mining efforts by the U.S. and other intelligence services? Well, the answer is not much, short of going off the grid completely. The reality is that your personal information isn't just shared with the government, but also sold to third parties, such as online advertisers and app developers, said Jeffrey Chester, who is the executive director of the nonprofit Center for Digital Democracy in Washington. It's all there in the privacy policy you probably didn't read when you signed up for Facebook or Gmail. These privacy policies explicitly state that they collect users' data such as names, email addresses, telephone numbers, credit cards, IP addresses, search queries, purchases, time and date of calls, duration of calls, and physical locations. The policies say that companies may use that information to send you targeted advertising or, if necessary, to comply with requests from government authorities. And a new day, a new scandal. A State Department memo is revealing possible cover-ups and halted investigations, showing that they may have covered up allegations of illegal and inappropriate behavior within their ranks. The Diplomatic Security Service, or the DSS, is the State Department security force charged with protecting the Secretary of State and U.S. ambassadors overseas, and with investigating any cases of misconduct worldwide. CBS News' John Miller reports that according to an internal State Department Inspector General's memo, several recent investigations were influenced, manipulated, or simply called off. The memo obtained by CBS cited 8 specific examples, among them allegations that a State Department security official in Beirut engaged in sexual assaults on foreign nationals hired as embassy guards, and that members of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's security detail engaged prostitutes while on official trips in foreign countries. This is a problem the report says was endemic. A proposed education bill will require federally funded schools to protect homosexual students. It is an 1,150-page-long bill titled The Strengthening of America's School Act of 2013, and it is a proposed revision to the No Child Left Behind Act that was signed into law by George Bush in 2002. Christians and conservatives are alarmed by a particular section tucked in the middle of the education bill that would require federally funded schools to not discriminate against homosexual or transgender students. This portion of the bill is titled the Student Non-Discrimination Act of 2013 and is based on a very similar act proposed 2 years ago in the House of Representatives. And in fact, Sebelius has recently made the statement that Obamacare will favor gays over straight people. She said LGBT individuals have faced limited access to health care and insurance. They have been less likely to get the preventive care they need to stay healthy. They have higher rates of tobacco use and are often at increased risk for mental health illness. To counter this, the administration is drawing attention to new benefits under Obamacare targeting gays, and that they will add gender status to health surveys and questionnaires critical in determining services under Obamacare. Turkey is building a mega mosque in Maryland. On his visit to a new Turkish-funded mosque in Lanham, Maryland, Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan said his government chose the site because of its location in free territory. He said when he attended the groundbreaking of the 15-acre, $100 million mega mosque that the Turkish-American Cultural Center likely will become the largest and most striking example of Islamic architecture in the Western Hemisphere when it is finished in 2014. And in a flashback, we must remember that Obama does have planned to Islamicize America, and he has recently been quoted as telling a UN senior official that the United States will be a Muslim country by 2016. Erdogan and Obama are very good friends, and apparently they're helping each other. Under New World Order global government, Islam and Sharia, RFID tracking armbands have been forced on all residents near a California music festival. Local residents living within a 1-mile radius of the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival, which takes place annually in Indio, California, got an advanced preview of the emerging American police state this year. According to a recent report by the LA Times, the Coachella's use of RFID wristbands to track attendees has been extended beyond just ticket holders to residents living around the Empire Polo Field where the festival takes place, even though forcing these tracking chips on the public is against the law. Budapest was on high alert yesterday as the river Danube threatened to burst its bank and flood the historic city. The river peaked at record highs as desperate homeowners, hotel staff, and military reservists piled sandbags in front of their buildings to protect the Hungarian capital. Tens of thousands have been forced to leave their homes, and at least a dozen people have been killed in floods that have hit Central Europe in the past week. And this past weekend's record-breaking heat has claimed 2 people in the Southwest. Scientists have created a device that tears a hole in time, enabling undetectable secret messages to be sent, so long as you can do it in 0.00001/12 of a second. The device could have important implications for military use, for sending secret messages via fiber optic cables. The device can hide a continuous stream of events at telecommunications data rates much quicker than a similar invention unveiled last year. One Beastwatch News reader commented this way, "Message sent? Send more cheese." Several large shipments of genetically modified corn and corn seeds originating from the U.S. have been destroyed by the Chinese government after being discovered by import officials at numerous locations across the country. At least 3 shipments of GM corn was detected at the Wanzai port in Zhuhai City near Macau and were reportedly destroyed after being successfully intercepted by government officials there. Russia has just released a report of its own regarding Monsanto, saying that Monsanto is a grave threat to the world. African children are being used as lab rats in a heinous vaccine medical experiment. Parents of dozens of African children severely injured by a combination meningitis vaccine known as Menafrivac are demanding answers following a recent declaration by government officials that the vaccine was somehow not the culprit in the tragedy. According to an investigative report by VacTruth.com's Christina England, at least 500 children in the small village of Goro in Chad were held hostage last December by so-called humanitarian groups who forced them to receive the deadly Menafrivac vaccine, which in many of them caused severe convulsions, paralysis, or worse. This is Beastwatch News Daily Update. See these and other stories at beastwatchnews.com. Bible prophecy news every day except Shabbat.